"The guests at your wedding sure are shabby compared to my daughters," said Director Johnson, who had just fired me yesterday. But why was Director Johnson here in the first place? I had no desire to see him. He finished checking in at the reception and approached me. Today marked the wedding day of my precious only daughter, Catherine. It dawned on me that Director Johnson was attending my daughter's wedding. I deliberately humbled myself and said, "Thank you for inviting me to your daughter's wedding the other day. So, what brings you here today?" "I'm a relative of the groom," he replied. "Oh, I see. So from today, we'll be distant relatives," I said with a smile. Which means, Director Johnson knew that today was my precious Catherine's wedding day when he fired me. Once again, I confirmed the ugliness of Director Johnson's character. The groom was an elite at a prominent company, and Catherine was also of the same caliber. My name is Bob. I'm 53 years old. I had worked at Williams Construction for many years, but yesterday, Director Johnson fired me. Director Johnson, who had transferred from a regional branch 3 years ago and knew nothing about me, was the one who did this. My wife, Jessica, calls me to Catherine's dressing room. Catherine looked radiant, prompting me to say, "Catherine, you look so beautiful." Tears welled in my eyes, and Catherine's eyes were also slightly red. When I was in 8th grade, I lost my father, and since then, I was raised by a single mother. But that mother has also gone to heaven. If she were alive, how happy she would have been to see Catherine's joyous appearance. Even after my father passed away, my mother worked resolutely as a high school teacher. By chance, Jessica, the woman I married, also worked while raising our adorable Catherine together. During her adolescence, there was a time when Catherine avoided me a bit, but once she settled down, the three of us lived happily together. And now, Catherine has become a beautiful bride. As I reflect on my daughter's growth, I also remember my own mother and feel grateful. With mixed feelings, I look back on my own life. Ever since I was little, I loved drawing pictures and making things. In elementary school, my parents would praise me for my arts and crafts projects. I wasn't good at sports, but I loved studying. My father worked for a Swiss-based company, so he was fluent in multiple languages, and my mother was also a graduate of a prestigious university. They supported my studies and even sent me to art lessons. Even in middle school, my grades were top-notch, and my parents were happy about it. But when my father suddenly passed away from a heart attack, I couldn't accept reality for a while and was absent from school. During the exam season in 9th grade, I felt bad for my mother, who was working alone, so I decided to find work myself. Nearby, there was my cousin Kevin, who was 6 years older than me and like a big brother to me. Through Kevin's introduction, I started working at a construction site for Williams Construction. My mother was against it. "Mom, I have a dream," I said. "A dream? Well, that's fine, but at least get a high school diploma," she said. The work at the construction site was tough, and studying at night was hard, but since my mother was a high school teacher, she gave me many reference books. Mr. Williams, the CEO of the company, was very friendly and a great person. So even though there was some harassment from my seniors at the construction site, I didn't let it get me down, and I persevered. At 17, I successfully obtained a high school equivalency certificate. As I mentioned earlier, I love making things. I was so happy to look up at the completed buildings I had worked on. I wanted to create buildings from scratch myself. With that desire welling up inside me, I started on a path to becoming an architect. During the day, I worked on the construction site, and at night, I attended evening classes to complete a professional degree in architecture. It took me 7 years to pass the architect registration examination. Upon obtaining my architect license, I reported it to Mr. Williams. My cousin Kevin, who worked at our main client Hillman Real Estate, introduced me to my current wife, Jessica, who was working as an office clerk. Our relationship went smoothly, and I ended up marrying Jessica. She soon gave birth to Catherine, and I was moved to tears by the small life. But after that, my mother passed away from cancer. My wife Jessica did her best to support me when I was feeling down. And 2 years later, I obtained a license from another jurisdiction. I was transferred to the sales department and started running around in a suit. In my home office, I had a desk where I could draw design plans and let my imagination run wild. One day, I got a call from Kevin on my cell phone. "Hello Bob, how are you doing? Want to grab a drink at the pub?" "Oh, Kevin, I'm doing well." "Sure, sounds good." So I met up with Kevin at the pub after he called me. "Actually, I got promoted to department head. How's Catherine doing?" "What? Really? Congrats." "Yeah, thanks to Jessica. Catherine is growing up healthy." I said that and showed him a photo of Catherine on my phone. "She looks just like the beautiful Jessica. I'm excited for her future." "Tonight's on me. Take it easy, alright. Jessica's working hard too." "Thanks, Kevin. Actually, I received my Illinois NCARB certificate. I'm still in the sales department at the company, but I informed Mr. Williams about it." "I see, you've worked hard. Are you working on any designs?" "Yeah, little by little at home." "I see. You gotta show me some time." With that conversation, Kevin ended up stopping by my home office on the way back. When I showed Kevin the finished architectural drawings and plans, he said, "This is pretty amazing. Propose it to Mr. Williams and do some sales pitches to my company." "Got it, definitely." With that, Kevin patted Catherine on the head and left. Back then, there was no computer software for designing, so I bought a scanner and scanned the plans into the computer. Then I printed out the drawings and plans of a large supermarket I was designing and handed them to Mr. Williams. Then I got an email from Mr. Williams on my desk computer. "Bob, well done. Send it over to Kevin's company right away." "Thank you, Mr. Williams." After that, I immediately made an appointment with Kevin and went to show him the plans. "Let's see, so these are all the plans, huh?" "Yeah, Kevin, what do you think?" "It requires a pretty big plot of land though. Looks like it could be the shopping mall of the future. Seems like it could fit a lot of shops too. You've put good thought into spaces for people with disabilities. I'll go talk to the CEO about it right away." That's what Kevin said. And it seems like Kevin's real estate company put in a construction request to Mr. Williams. I got another email from Mr. Williams. "Bob, this is a big job. Make sure to go supervise the site from time to time." "Understood." So while wearing a suit, I also put on a hard hat at the construction site of a large supermarket. My first project that I had designed and thoroughly inspected every corner. The supermarket that successfully opened was very lively, and Kevin was pleased. After that, while coordinating with Mr. Williams and Kevin, I also worked hard in my home office designing custom homes and such. I kept my designs confidential from the accounting department, and Mr. Williams directly deposited a considerable allowance into my account. The company properly reported it to the tax accountant as a business alliance. Every time I saw a completed building, I felt so happy I could almost fly. There were other sales too, but it was mainly Kevin's company. When there were no other sales, I would sit at my desk coming up with ideas, go to various places to look at high-end houses, or draw new project ideas based on my imagination. I've noticed that whenever I come home early, my daughter Catherine is deeply engrossed in her studies, so I decided to give her a laptop computer for her birthday. Catherine was really happy about it. Then out of the blue, Catherine started talking to me in French. I barely understand any French. "You work in construction, right Dad? I'm taking French classes now. It's really fun." "Oh really? You're such a hard worker, Catherine." When I said that, Catherine broke into a big smile. I love Catherine so much. She motivates me at work. Just thinking about her getting a boyfriend someday makes me feel lonely. When she hit puberty, our conversations decreased. I never thought I'd feel this lonely. At times like that, my wife Jessica would say, "Honey, you seem a bit down." "Yeah, it's 'cause Catherine is ignoring me. It's just a temporary phase for girls. She'll come back around once she settles down. If you're like this now, you'll have a hard time when Catherine gets married." My wife Jessica laughed. It seemed Catherine was working hard at French classes while attending high school. One day, Mr. Williams invited me to a fancy restaurant. Mr. Williams brought his son. "Sorry for the short notice, Bob." No, not at all. This is my oldest son. He's currently training at another company, but he'll eventually be my successor, so I wanted to introduce him to you, Bob." That's what Mr. Williams said. I exchanged greetings with the CEO's son, the next in line. Then Mr. Williams said, Have you thought about going independent as an architect, Bob? I hadn't considered it at all. I'm truly indebted to you, Mr. Williams, for taking me in after graduating from middle school. I look forward to continuing to work with you. I replied immediately. Is that so? Having a genius like you here puts my mind at ease. Please get along with my son too. I'm really grateful to have Kevin around as well. I'm honored by your kind words. It turned into a pleasant meal like that. Meanwhile, my daughter Catherine got accepted into a top university. She must have studied really hard. Our family went out to celebrate with Korean barbecue. Catherine told me all sorts of stories. It was just a temporary phase of puberty after all. My daughter, who has a hearty appetite like before but doesn't gain weight, was smiling happily as she stuffed her face with high-quality Korean barbecue. After that, she started attending cooking classes and making lots of dishes for us every day. I always felt happy eating my daughter's delicious meals. Catherine successfully graduated and got a job at a major company. It may be strange for a father to say, but she grew into an elegant adult woman resembling her mother, and business attire really suits her. My work was going smoothly, and by that time, I had gained the trust of CEO Williams. I would send my designs directly from my computer to Kevin's computer, and Kevin's company would put in construction requests to our company. That's how the workflow. It was decided that Catherine would be posted overseas for a while and go to Asia. Then, after returning home in 3 years, she said, "Dad, there's someone I want you to meet." When I heard those words, I realized I had to accept the reality that I would once again be separated from my daughter. And Catherine brought her boyfriend. He was a cheerful young man working for the same company. And after dating for a while, Catherine's boyfriend proposed to her and they got engaged. The meeting between the two families went smoothly, and Catherine was busy working while also searching for a wedding venue and a place to live. I turned 52. Around that time, most of the dealings were with Kevin, and since I was receiving ample dividends from Mr. Williams, I didn't particularly feel the desire to get promoted. So I decided to try consulting with Mr. Williams over the phone. "Mr. Williams, I'd like to continue designing and doing sales with my cousin Kevin's company via computer, so could I transfer from the sales department to the general affairs department?" "Ah, I see. So that's how it is. Yeah, it must be hard to do design work in the sales department. All right, starting tomorrow, I'll have you work in the general affairs department." And so, the next day, I was transferred to the general affairs department. I specifically requested a desk by the window. It's easier to come up with various ideas when looking outside. One day, I got a call from Kevin. We decided to meet up that day. Kevin's company was originally his father's company. My mother was the younger sister of his father's wife. I knew about that, but that night, I was in for a surprise. "How are the preparations for Catherine's wedding going?" "Yay, they're coming along. The invitations should be arriving soon, so please do come." "I see. Little Catherine, huh? Of course, I'll attend the wedding. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something. My father's health has taken a turn for the worse, and I suddenly had to take over after him and became the CEO. Kevin, congratulations. But is your father okay?" "Yeah, he'll be fine as long as he doesn't push himself. He just became the chairman of Hellman Real Estate for now." "That's good to hear. I lost my father early on, so I was a bit shocked." "Ah, thank you. So about Catherine's wedding, do you think you could invite our company's executives in a big way? They all know about your great work, Bob. That would be much appreciated." "I'll let Catherine know. In that case, please send me the list of names again." "Of course. I'm looking forward to seeing Catherine in all her glory." That's how the conversation went. At our company, Mr. Williams' son, the new CEO, has taken over. Mr. Williams became the chairman. I frequently went out drinking with the new CEO and deepened our friendship. In the current General Affairs Department, Director Johnson transferred from a regional branch 3 years ago. Director Johnson, who knew nothing about me, was my boss. The preparations for Catherine's ceremony were steadily progressing, but since I'm an only child and both my parents have passed away, even gathering Catherine's classmates and colleagues, there would be about 5 seats less than the groom's side. When I consulted with Mr. Williams about it, the CEOs of construction companies he knew agreed to attend. Since joining the General Affairs Department, Director Johnson had been asking me to do menial tasks. It's not that I minded doing menial tasks, but the slightly younger Director Johnson, who was obsessed with academic background, had an arrogant attitude. "Hey, you incompetent old man over there, go make coffee for everyone." Yes, understood. Saying that, I went to make coffee. The office clerk tried to say something to me, but I declined, saying it was a task I was asked to do. "Hey, Bob, the window seat really suits you, huh? What are you spacing out for? If you have time, go clean up everyone's trash cans. Why is someone like you even in this company? This isn't a construction site." The trash cans. Understood. I was just gazing out the window and thinking about new designs, but no one knew that. But at 53, you tend to lack exercise, so thinking of menial tasks as exercise can be a good mental switch. I did the menial tasks as Director Johnson told me to. However, I did think his way of speaking was really rude, but reportedly, he was a graduate of Harvard. Apparently, he was the top salesperson at the regional branch. His wife was also an elite, and I was invited to his daughter's wedding the other day. It was a luxurious wedding. Catherine had already started living with her boyfriend, so I couldn't eat her delicious cooking anymore. I was really lonely. I was planning to ask the new CEO for time off to take a trip with my wife, who had been busy after Catherine's wedding. It was probably because of Director Johnson. I had a feeling he wouldn't accept it. After completing the menial tasks I was ordered to do, I slowly thought about new designs. But I think to others, it just looked like I was spacing out. There was also document creation, which I quickly sent to Kevin. Director Johnson entrusted me with documents for new salespeople. "Bob, compile these documents by today." He placed a thick stack of documents on my desk with a thud. "I'm terribly sorry, Director Johnson. That's a bit impossible right now. Finish it even if you have to work overtime. It must take a long time for an incompetent person like you. Overtime. I don't mind, but it's still a bit impossible to finish by today. Geez. This is why people with low education are. Fine, I'll give you until tomorrow, but there won't be any overtime pay. If it's by tomorrow, I think I can somehow manage." Understood. And so, I started working on the computer. "Hey, go do some shopping for me." While I was working, he said that and handed me a memo. It was Director Johnson's personal items. "Director Johnson, I'll go right away." Saying that, I went outside. When I went outside and walked a bit, I saw a nice-looking new bakery had opened. Huh? In a place like this? And it had a lot of customers too. I see. Designing restaurants and such seems fun too. Thinking about things like that, I returned to the office and gave Director Johnson the things I bought. I headed to my desk computer. It was an important document for the sales department. I thought I'd put it together carefully. When it was time to leave, Director Johnson went home. The others also followed, leaving only me in the office. The only sounds in the office were the ticking of the analog clock and the clacking of the keyboard. But the window seat was nice. The beautiful orange color of the setting sun illuminated my computer. I was used to working alone in my home office, so it wasn't a big deal. I finished about 70% of the work and went home at 11 p.m. I sent my wife an email on my smartphone. When I got home, my wife asked, "What kind of person is the Director of General Affairs Department?" "Well, he's just a typical department head, but he has a bad way of speaking. I'll be able to come home early tomorrow." Saying that, I leisurely ate the meal my wife made, took a bath, and slept well. Catherine's wedding is in 3 days. Huh? I gotta make sure I'm in good shape. Pumping myself up like that, I went to work early in the morning and started compiling the documents. And at 2 p.m., I submitted all the documents to Director Johnson. "Looks like you somehow made it in time," Director Johnson said with an unpleasant smile. Until I was ordered to do menial tasks, I was thinking about restaurant and eatery designs. Little by little, ideas started coming to me. That day, even without being ordered by Director Johnson, I proactively made coffee for everyone. Director Johnson's computer caught my eye, but I couldn't believe what I saw. He was playing card games on it. I pretended not to see and returned to my desk. Nothing else happened that day, and the day ended. And the day before Catherine's wedding. "Hey, Bob, why are you always gazing out the window like that? Do you have any intention of working? Director Johnson yelled at me in a loud voice. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Do you think you can always get away with just apologizing? We don't need incompetent people like you anymore. You're just a waste of space in the company. Bob, you're fired. What? I'm fired. This is an order from your superior. I'll inform the CEO myself. Clear out your desk and get out of here immediately. Understood. Then I'll go to HR and proceed with the exit interview right away. I didn't mind doing menial tasks, but I just couldn't bring myself to like Director Johnson. And after submitting my resignation letter to Director Johnson, I said, "Thank you for everything," left the office and headed home. It was only 3 p.m. I immediately called Kevin and told him about the situation. Kevin said in exasperation, "What? Bob got fired. That Director Johnson doesn't know anything, does he?" "Yeah, I never told him." "Then this works out perfectly. Starting tomorrow, I want you to be my assistant, Bob. You're now the Vice CEO of Hellman Real Estate. Give my regards to Mr. Williams and the new CEO. Thank you, Kevin. See you at the wedding tomorrow." "Got it." And I informed Mr. Williams about Director Johnson's true performance at the office and assumed the role of Vice CEO of Hellman Real Estate. "What? That Johnson, huh? Well, if you're gonna be working with Kevin, I'm happy with that. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Mr. Williams, thank you so much for everything all these years. Please give my regards to the new CEO as well." No, I'm the one who should be thanking you for your future work. Jess, leave it to me." That's how the conversation went. When I told my wife Jessica about Kevin, she was really happy for me. I also felt like I could start fresh and work hard at Hellman Real Estate. And on the day of the wedding, my wife and I headed to the venue early, feeling fidgety. Catherine said, "I'm off, Dad," and headed to the makeup room with energy. After a while, my former boss Director Johnson, who had fired me, appeared. And for some reason, he was checking in at the reception. "Huh? Hello, Director Johnson. Why are you here?" "Why? I'm a relative of the groom. How does it feel to be fired right before your daughter's wedding?" "Director Johnson, what kind of person are you? So you knew today was my daughter's wedding when you fired me?" "Well, it's not quite like that. I had already decided to fire you from before." "I see." When I said that, one guest after another in the hall looked shocked. At that moment, my wife Jessica called for me. I went to my daughter's dressing room. She was so beautiful. "Catherine, you're really beautiful." Saying that, I held back my tears. Catherine's eyes were also bright red. When I went outside, Director Johnson said condescendingly, "Compared to my daughter's wedding, your guests are shabby too." "You're right. Your daughter's wedding was truly luxurious and wonderful." When I deliberately said that, Director Johnson still had a snide look on his face. Just then, luxury cars started parking one after another outside. Director Johnson seemed a bit flustered, saying, "Who are those people?" When I said, "They're our guests," Director Johnson looked shocked. Then, Mr. Williams, the new CEO, along with Mr. Williams' acquaintances, Kevin from Hellman Real Estate, and Hellman's executives, gathered at the reception. They each congratulated me one by one, saying, "Congratulations today, Vice CEO Bob. And here comes the Vice CEO. Congratulations." The new CEO also expressed the same sentiment. Others also called me Vice CEO and congratulated me. Then Director Johnson was confused, saying, "What? Why is Bob the Vice CEO?" "Oh, starting today, I'm the Vice CEO of Hellman Real Estate, Williams Construction's main client." "What? How could someone incompetent like you?" Then Mr. Williams spoke up. "Johnson, I'm really disappointed in you. You see, Bob has been working diligently at my company since he was a teenager, and he's a genius architect. Our company has been saved by Bob more times than I can count." "Huh? Architect?" "Yes, that's right. I transferred him to the General Affairs Department so he could focus on design, but to think you would fire such an excellent employee." "What? Plus, when he was in sales, he always took good care of his juniors. He's good friends with my son, the new CEO, you know." "What? No way. I'm already the chairman now, but I'll never forget Bob's hard work. And the CEO of Hellman Real Estate, our main client, is Bob's cousin, right?" There's no way Hillman Real Estate would let go of such a top-notch architect. And Bob will continue to give work to our company as a vice CEO, right? That can't be. No way. As a department head in our company, you should have paid more attention to your employees. Mr. Williams is the chairman now, but Director Johnson was stunned by his words. Johnson, we'll discuss your punishment after the ceremony. What? Punishment? Saying that, Director Johnson turned pale and started sweating. The ceremony went smoothly and transitioned to the reception. Since the groom's guests were also elites from prominent companies, and our side was filled with CEOs and executives, Catherine received blessings from everyone. During Catherine's final letter to us, I broke down crying. My wife was crying too. It was a really great ceremony, but only Director Johnson remained pale the whole time, sitting there in a daze. And we saw Catherine and her husband as they left for their honeymoon and left the venue. After that, Director Johnson was demoted to the regional branch he originally came from and had to start over as a rank-and-file employee. It seems he also ended up divorcing his wife. As for me, as the vice CEO of Hillman Real Estate, I vowed to continue making good designs for Kevin, who had always looked out for me, and Williams Construction.